Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Wendy Silvers, and you have arrived at the Awakened Mother podcast. The Awakened Mother podcast are weekly dialogues, uncensored, unfiltered, raw, and real conversations with visionary moms, spiritual leaders, professionals, moms on the ground, people that are dedicated to the upliftment and the empowerment of the mother in our world. And so we welcome everyone here, whether you are a mother or a spiritual mother or just love the mamas and the babies. You are in the right place to receive information that will uplift, inspire, and empower you. And today I am just so over the moon thrilled to share with you someone who I consider a soul sister. We met through a coach named Kendra Thornberry, who's also fabulous. And I just, it was just this instantaneous, like, oh my gosh, soul sister. So I wanted to share her with everyone on the Awakened Mother podcast and beyond, because she's doing amazing work in the world. So Aisha Rose Melodie Hassan is the creator of the Sacred Blueprint, a cutting-edge vessel of courses and programs for property owners and designers to birth their dream sanctuaries through a new modality that bridges spirituality and architecture. She leads mentorship programs for architects and designers on mastering co-creative property design and guides property owners through her unique signature system to transform their home, garden, community, or center into a place that supports their soul's purpose while partnering with the spirit of the land. That just touches me so deeply, Aisha. Aisha's work is multidisciplinary, intuitive, and of the future, bridging her knowledge and expertise in organic architecture, esoteric wisdom, geomancy, alchemical healing. She's a certified practitioner, anthroposophy, which I always trip over that, anthroposophy and
Yes.
art. She's a licensed architect in Turkey with over 19 years of design and construction experience in Canada, Germany, Turkey, and Switzerland on a wide range of projects, including large and small scale residential, urban design, mixed use, cultural, educational, and institutional buildings. And she is joining us from Turkey.
Yes.
So, so Awakened Mother podcast has gone global. So
Absolutely international.
So thank you so much, Aisha, for being here today. I am so drawn to your work, and since this podcast is dedicated to awakening and to living an awakened life as a mother, as a change agent, as a human on the planet, what was it that drew you to architecture and then drew you into the bridging architecture and spirituality?
Oh, Wendy, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction. Yes, what drew me to architecture? Well, I grew up with a very artistic mother, a father who loved music, who still loves music, and also mathematics. Mother who, was for 30 years, the art director of Scholastic Children's Books in Canada. Yeah, and a phenomenal painter and artist. I grew up with two very beautiful parents, very, very, such a gift, really. And I always had this call to create beauty. I could feel my environment and very much through my ears, through hearing. And the environments would affect me, whether they're ugly, whether they're, whether there's like too much fluorescent lights, I'm just always super aware of my environment. very passionate about urban design as well, was always observing how people used spaces, public spaces, community, you know, an observer, a listener and an observer very much so. And then weaving in the art piece, weaving in, you know, the music piece. And when you blend all that together, well, you could say architecture chose me at the end of high school. I had an amazing art teacher, Marilyn Berkovich. I love you. I love you. And she guided me along with a friend of mine, two of my friends actually, to study architecture. And she was amazing. I mean, we would be going to like, you know, the art galleries for like the contemporary installations. You know, we would be like total cutting edge at the end of high school, doing cutting edge installations with this woman. And I was really proud of the work that I did at the end of high school. So she drew us to that world, and I'm so grateful for her opening that door, because that was the world and is the world that I belong to. Now, there was a period, I mean, I was successful in university and very stressed, super intense program. Architecture is very intense. Being a practicing architect is also quite intense. And without getting into too much of the detail of that, it's basically built on the old paradigm. There's a lot of martyrdom energy. There's a lot of overextending, Wendy, a lot of overextending, a lot of like over design, overworking, super, you know, late hours. Again, this is, you know, based on the culture of the firm or the practice or who you're working with. There are a lot of fun offices as well, you know, beautiful, creative people. I mean, amazing. But there was a big piece missing for me. I was getting sick all the time. I was getting sick all the time, Wendy. I was getting sick. There was something not connecting for me. I was very sensitive, and I was listening to my body, and my body was saying, you're overworking, like this is stressful. And there was a lot of also uber mind, intellectual over conceptualization of stuff. I remember being in front of a jury of, you know, professors, and there was just, they're drilling you, right? They're drilling you. And it was just, there was panic and stress and, you know, great times as well. But there was a big piece missing, and that was the spiritual piece. That's the energetic piece. That is the whole picture piece, where like, I was starting to question, well, what about the health of the architect in this process? What about my health? And I questioned that as I was in working at offices and running my own practice for quite a long time in Turkey. And the piece of the land, the piece of not really, I could sense that in general, architects, our professors, they weren't really guiding us into the energetics of the land. Now, of course, while I was in university, I couldn't really put that language to it. And only after the birth of my son did the language begin to really flow through. That was a whole initiation in itself at age 33. So it was tiring, it was draining and inspiring at the same time. So a blend of both. And I came to a point, you know, studying architecture, so passionate about it, knowing that there is a power to architecture, a power that holds the keys to building our new earth, a power that, you know, is like a vessel, right? an extension of our bodies. It's a vehicle for transformation, a vehicle to heal ourselves, a vehicle to heal communities, right? And as I awakened more, I realized the power of it. I had moments where I was about to give up, Wendy, because I was so stressed by the intensity of the job, of the work, feeling so much pressure. I felt actually that was really inserted and really kind of, inserted into my system during school. And to be honest, that whole system, now I look back on it, is all based on the patriarchy.
I was, while you were speaking, that's what
Did you feel that?
Like patriarchy,
right? Competition, lots of competition, this fear-based, are you going to say the right thing? Are you smart enough? Does your building or project have an idea that is smart enough, worthy enough to pass? There was so much of that, and I saw how that culture, how that consciousness, that those thought forms, more like it, thought forms stream through into the practice. And there was a certain point where I decided, I don't want to do this anymore. And I knew I was growing these spiritual gifts after the birth of my son. And I got into what is alchemical energy healing. And I was introduced to the whole Egyptian pantheon, the ancient Egyptian mysteries. And so.
Can you say more?
There's a lot
about the Egyptian mystery.
Absolutely.
And how I too feel very strongly that my daughter's birth, the actual conception and the birthed me. I mean, Osho says when a child is born, so too is a mother. And I really experienced that transformational experience. So your son was born and led you into this other pathway.
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Absolutely.
And 33, we're going to talk about the Virgin Mary's house.
Yes, we are in Ephesus. I was just there.
And when I think of 33 is one of my favorite numbers because it also reminds me of Ishwa. I mean, that was when he went out with his, from what I understand, I'm sure he was doing it before, but with his teaching. So 33 is a very alchemical number.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm not an expert in the numbers, but they appear to me I see the synchronicities.
Yeah.
And I know that 33 is one of the initiation numbers, absolutely, in our time, in our life. 33 is an important year for many of you who are listening. Check in your timeline where you were, what you were doing for 33 and onwards, 42, and there's many. So alchemical energy healing. Alchemical energy healing was founded and developed, this modality, by Nikki Scully. She's in Oregon. And there's a teacher, Nicole Balog. I'm not going to be Balog. She's my teacher in Ontario, and she is actually one of the very few who is taking the torch and teaching this unique modality. So birth of my son, beautiful birth. It was just absolutely life-changing. And I was fortunate enough to be able to stay at home for the first few years, 3-4 years of raising my son. He was born in Canada, and we spent the first few months as a family with my parents who are in Canada, and then flew back to Turkey. And he was early years in Turkey, being raised in Turkey. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to stay at home. It was my choice. I wanted to stay in the early years with him. And I started to dive into the books, Wendy. The books came to me. The books came to me. I'm reading. I've read a lot of Rudolf Steiner, doing a lot of his esoteric studies and exercises, and reading his lectures, meditating a lot. And also actually, I never sit put. I realized it's actually still quite full. I was involved with a very small core group to initiate a Waldorf kindergarten in Izmir, in Turkey. In
Wow.
Turkey, it hasn't continued all through. It was hard to keep the community solid, but I believe truly that we planted a very important seed in those times. And I know that it's going to reemerge. It is my dream to build a Waldorf inspired community and school. That is the mission. That is my cause for my business, for the children. Nature school.
Yes. Yes.
So the alchemical energy healing, I was introduced to the Egyptian pantheon, the ancient Egyptian mysteries, and I immediately felt like I was coming home. My great-grandfather is Egyptian, and I think there is something there. That's where the Hassan name comes from. It's not a Turkish name, it's an Arabic name. And I immediately I connected so well with my teacher, and I started studies. This was actually when my son was older and at school, but it his birth began the whole journey. Alchemical energy healing. Well, I got certified. It came very naturally to me, and I'm blending now the wisdom that I've received through this very unique healing modality and blending it in the way I practice architecture.
So
and
beautiful.
Yes. And so what is amazing about this, Wendy, or what's super hilarious actually, is as I was training to be the alchemical healer and continuing to do my own healing sessions, I would receive messages from the ancient Egyptian pantheon, like Thoth or Ptah. Ptah is the energy standing on the against the Jed pillar, and speaking forth the future, speaking forth the new earth through his larynx. And actually he's very quiet. So Thoth, actually I hear him through Thoth, but Ptah is one of my number one support spirit guides. And they're like, hey, Aisha, you can't run away from architecture. So I'm like I'm doing my healing studies, I'm in healing sessions, I'm doing group circles with other women, and I'm receiving these messages like, you are the builder of form, you're the builder of the new earth, you've got to, this is your path. And I'm just like, shit, because these were times where I was considering to give up.
Right.
I was considering to give up because I felt confused. I felt out of place. I didn't like being in conventional architecture offices. And the confusing part was that I was good at what I was doing, but there was something that wasn't feeding my soul. So out of all of this, Wendy, birthed the sacred blueprint, this vessel of courses and programs that help both architects and property owners to give birth to the optimal blueprint for their property. And so I am working very intimately with the nature spirits. I'm working as a ceremony. I'm bringing back what I call the impulse of the ancient temple builders of the future. I'm bringing back the impulse of the ancient temple builders of the future, and I'm reweaving the foundation stone ceremonies. I'm reweaving the ceremonial aspects, like the beginning, the middle, the end, the opening ceremony, the ending ceremony, and I'm bringing my clients along this process. So that was the missing piece in conventional architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, yeah, and of course, it's the clients who are willing to take this journey with me that I'm, drawing in here, and I'm willing and available to work with. But it's a quest, it's a vision quest to birth their blueprint. And what's incredible is, Wendy, is that, I know with all of my heart and soul that everyone has the capacity to create beauty. And what often happens is the sacred, because the sacred vessel is so strong, often messages and architecture and blueprints will be burst through my client. So the next, like, let's say, they'll wake up the next morning and they'll start sketching the house themselves. Right. So it's a sacred union, and it's a ceremonial process that I've developed, and it is very cutting edge. I don't know anyone who's doing this work, and I'm really excited about it.
Well, I resonate with everything that you've said, and your genuineness is palpable. I really feel that you were called to be this cutting edge, visionary, spiritual architect, or like I call the sacred architects, building, really birthing a new world. And your connection to the earth and the reverence and the honoring of its aliveness and all of the, the nature spirits that really exist, that modern, my modern architecture, because of greed or the acquisitiveness of developers, just, cuts that out. And, I don't know if I ever told you, but my father-in-law was the first he was an architect, and he was one of the first Black architects in Los Angeles. He and another partner had the first Black architecture firm in Los Angeles.
That's amazing.
Black owned. And he was a really wonderful artist too. And so listening to you, I really hear the cutting edge. I really hear the innovativeness, and I really hear the depth of connection to that which is not seen, making itself manifest through what you offer. And I know that you have done online summits with various people. Are you in the middle of, are you about to launch another summit?
Yes. It is called the Sacred Blueprint for Our New Earth, Building Healing Sanctuaries with the Wisdom of Nature. It is an 8-day back-to-back online summit. It's beginning March 14th, so really soon, ending around the equinox, March 21st. And we've got a phenomenal lineup of earth energy experts, people who are weaving in the wisdom of nature into the way they design. We have an interior designer who works in a really soulful way, architect and designer who is a practicing yoga teacher, and is going to share how she runs her studio in a spirit-led way. We've got this amazing natural builder from Russia, who's been all around the world building earth ships, doing permaculture. He's on the ground building sustainable systems, and he's exploring now, exploring and developing pretty practical solutions for extreme cold. I mean, there's a whole list. We've got a space alchemist. We've got someone who is doing feng shui, an advanced feng shui practitioner, biogeometry. So these are all people who are working with the energetics of the earth on different levels, and working with the energetics of you, when working with the energetics of their clients, and synergize, right? Bringing that all together. And I love how you said, bringing the unseen realms into this process. This is key. And this is the key for moving forward into the fifth dimension, into the new world. Yes. And I take my work very seriously, and I'm now very vocal about it. I see a world where I am at the table, design table, with the mayors of cities, and we are including the nature spirits at the design table. We are including Gaia at the design table. This is what was happening in our in Indigenous communities, still is, right? That whenever big decisions needed to be made, an honoring of the land was made, gratitude to the land, right? Ceremony. And so this interview series is, I'm so excited about it. It's free. You can sign up every day. We have this amazing guest speaker, and you can sign up via the sacredblueprintseries.com. Can I add it in the chat? So
yes, and I will make sure in the show notes that is there to how to contact you. So please go right ahead and add it.
So it's the Sacred Blueprint Series, the sacredblueprintseries.com.
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you, Aisha. And I so resonate with everything you're saying. I've had a long held connection to Indigenous principles and wisdom.
Yeah.
Since I can remember, and being close to the earth, even though I'm not, I mean, if you meet me, you would never think of me as a camper. I'm not really a camper. And yet, I love the earth and nature spirits, and the two-leggeds and the four-leggeds and the winged ones, and
yes,
not so crazy about the creepy crawlers, but I know they have their and I emceed a beautiful event this past Saturday in Malibu, and there were a number of women that followed this shamanic path, and there was also great grandmother Mary Lyons and OBGYN elder.
Yeah.
And I spoke with her before the panel started, and I asked her if she would do a blessing, because I learned from hosting large events outside that it's really important. I had reached out to several Native American wisdom keepers and learned about how you honor the land. Yeah. And so great grandmother Mary blessed the land and the tribes that are associated with the land. So everything that you're saying is so congruent with really it's the ancient wisdom in current day. And oh my goddess, do we need what you're doing? Yeah.
And I just thought, like, how that's so right. Like a large scale event out on a piece of land somewhere. Of course, there's going to be some disruption, or, the trees are going to notice, right? The environment's going to notice. And it doesn't matter if it's a city or a forest or the countryside. A lot of my people who approach me think, okay, well, you probably only work with people in the countryside, like, out on their, beautiful property. And many clients do come to me with these amazing, beautiful properties, away from the city, but doing this work in the city is equally as important. And I'm just imagining, and then just think, right, what a huge development project does without that sacred honoring or respect or asking for permission,
It's
right?
just, when my daughter was very little, and I would take her on walks in the neighborhood, and of course children look at whatever's eye level and they reach for it. I would encourage her, well, ask first. Ask the tree, ask the flower. Sometimes I would carry sage with us, and I would say, so let's give thanks back. You wanted that, and of course, with a little child, of course, and they always say yes. The
Of
plant, the tree, or
course.
the flower, it's like yes.
Well, that is
And
their language, right?
yes,
They get
yes,
it.
yes.
Yeah.
And so we would sprinkle sage or say thank you, and we don't live in sprawling uh, meadows. We live more in a cityfied area, but that reverence for nature and the honoring of that which cannot be seen but is very real.
Yeah.
So I love the work that you're doing, and I love how you've woven the natural authenticity of life back into a career that architecture is mostly mental, although to be able to catch a vision, you
Absolutely.
have
Yeah.
to be tuned in and tapped in.
Absolutely.
And, you've got.
And there are many architects who are very tapped in and tuned in and don't use the spiritual language for that. And you're just,
Right.
that something has got them, and they're an instrument for
Yes.
new forms, which
Yes.
is a really beautiful thing. There's incredible work being done out in
Mhm.
the world by so
Yeah.
many architects, and a lot of advancements in sustainable design and natural materials. And yeah.
Beautiful. So you moved back to Turkey,
Yes.
and how is that? And after how is that, will you speak about the Virgin Mary House?
Yes.
Home.
Yes. Absolutely. Turkey is beautiful. We have been, I've spent large chunks of time here, both with my son prior to his birth as well, met my husband here, and it's great. We're really happy to be back. We just moved back in the summer from Canada. We were in Canada for 4 years. And, it was a challenge, transitioning my son to school, and not. It was actually more of a challenge for me. He was at a Waldorf school in Ontario, and that was the one big piece that was hard for me to separate from. I think I should have been going to the Waldorf school growing up. But we found a pretty alternative school that has lots of recesses and has a different approach. And my son is really responding well to it. He's really enjoying it, and he's full on now reading and writing in Turkish. And yeah. I mean, he speaks Turkish, but the whole reading and writing of it is a whole other piece. He's 8 years old, so small class. It's great. So how's Turkey? We love it. We love it because Turkish people lack consistency. So there's a looseness here in terms of, regulations and whatever. And Turkish people are so warm that it's not possible. It's not possible for very long periods of social distancing. Let's say beyond like half a minute.
Well, that's so
It's
good,
just not
because
possible. It's just not possible.
that's awesome for mental health, because
It
the
is.
worst thing for mental health is isolation. And I don't really, that social distance measurement just never made sense to me. Like 3 feet, 6 feet, walking into the restaurant, don't wear it at the table, as if this.
Meanwhile, our hands are everywhere, and illness gets passed through the hands anyway.
And builds your immune system.
Right. So so we're enjoying that, and enjoying we're in Izmir, so we're enjoying the weather and there's flow. And right now I have a business where I can work from wherever I want. So it's a great setup. And we are setting up, we have a property by the sea, and we got 2 tiny houses. One I'm going to turn into my office, and a main house, which we will be completing construction on. And we've got some other land as well. We wanted to move back to grow our roots here and to grow food. And we have access to water, a well. Really preparing for a kind of more, even if it's not 100% sustainable, to have our own garden, to have our own water. I want my son to grow up, learning how to grow his own garden, his own vegetables, and we have fruit trees, olive trees. So these are really drawing us here.
Wonderful.
And yeah. And
are you going to have any chickens or any sheep or?
Good question. Well, Grandpa, my husband's father, is totally like, he loves that. He actually for a while had some sheep and chickens. Well, didn't last that long, but I don't know if we'd be able to run it on that scale. My design practice is my priority, but I'm a planter of seeds. I plant seeds for communities to grow. I'm really good at that. So I hope to create something, especially for the children. They're at the forefront of my thoughts. So I have a vision to build a center for children, whether that turns into a school or an outdoor school or some kind of a creative studio space for them, and that's surrounded by the farm. Yeah.
I know that will manifest.
It will.
I will hold that. I will hold that in consciousness. I stand in agreement with you for that. It's needed. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And before we went live, we were talking about the Virgin Mary's home, and you said you had been there a couple of times, but that this was different. Your visit this time was different as a new woman. Can you speak into that?
Absolutely. Well, before I start with the Virgin Mary, I want to speak a bit about Ephesus. Ephesus is a major center in pre-Roman, right? Greek times, Hellenistic. I wouldn't be good with dates and the exact chronology, but it was a super important space for culture and civilization, a place that bridges East and West. There's a very important mystery school there, and connected to the Temple of Artemis there. Artemis is one of the goddesses of the Greek pantheon, descendant of Gaia, goddess of the hunt. The Temple of Artemis was really drawing me, and the Virgin Mary house is not that far. It's a drive away, but it's in the same region. The Virgin Mary house is on top of a hill, far enough away from the city center that she was safe. I believe she moved there after Jesus's death. And the house is very high up onto a mountain, so you got to drive like winding roads all the way up. I just get chills. That whole journey up was pretty powerful. So the Temple of Artemis is drawing me, and I went there with my photographer actually and did a photo shoot at the temple and the city of Ephesus. And it has a very powerful energy, bursting with creative life force. And it is in ruins. it is actually not even the most popular place to go. It's like off the beaten path. They don't even charge money to get in there. You know, the main the center of Ephesus, you do need to pay a ticket to get in, and there's the amphitheater and all the Roman, you know, the baths, and you know, it's stunning. It's absolutely a phenomenal place, magical. But the Temple of Artemis, I'm telling you, there is such a strong portal there. The land speaks, and the temple structure speaks, even though it is in ruins. And there were some pretty big initiations going on there. Many of the mysteries were taught and passed on and kept alive at that temple. And then I knew, as I was tuning into the land, I even started tuning in. This is what I do through my work. I tune in telepathically to properties. And so often before I go somewhere, I will tune into the energetics of the property, the land, before I go. And I was also invited and guided to go to the Virgin Mary house, and that they were connected somehow energetically. The Temple of Artemis down low, you think it's like, you know, like the, you know, the Acropolis or something up on a hill. Nope, kind of more down low. When it rains, it gets really wet. An interesting spot. But very powerful. Clearly, there are very powerful ley lines, energy lines running through the earth there, and some powerful portals that they tapped into when they were building and choosing the site for the temple. Virgin Mary house. So we get up, and really, it's like I'm going there for the first time, but I've been there before. I've been there as a child. And I've been there, you know, few times prior, but I really felt I was going for the first time. I went through some, I guess, some spiritual deaths, let's say, in the winter, with some back-to-back illnesses, and out of it, I came out pretty changed. So we climb up, we get up, we pay our ticket, we park, and the minute you're up there, you are in the most beautiful pine forest, like kind of like these parasol type pines, like very sculptural, really beautiful pine forest, very old. And you immediately feel the whispers of Mother Earth there. It is very beautiful, very powerful. Now, approaching the house itself, you go there. There are quite a lot of tourists, and it's very small. It's very modest, and architecturally, I'm looking at it going, it doesn't really feel like a house. It's not really. The windows are very up high. There was something not kind of fitting for me, in terms of there was something missing, and I was questioning a lot when I was there. It's interesting. So small place made out of brick, beautiful little structure. They've got Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary statue in there, some candles that people can purchase and make, you know, prayer. And there were a lot of tourists coming through at a certain point. And it felt very strange and somewhat violating for me, to be honest. It's almost like the size of that house wasn't able to withstand the flow of traffic moving through the house. And this is not even in high season. So that was one thing that was, there was something off. So I was expecting to approach Mother Mary's house and be very immediately connected to her. I wasn't. So I was questioning a lot. Is this her house? Is this her house? I feel her out in the forest. Is this her house? Is this her house? And there was something off for me, and then it clicked. And in a later conversation with someone who I'll be interviewing, Sandy Humby, who is a very gifted house healer and space alchemist, I realized that there was some kind of an energetic overlay that occurred on the property. So this what onto the house. And it may need some more investigating, but this is my first intuitions are usually correct. So there are some monks there, living there, and I think they are connected to the Vatican somehow. There is a link to Italy somehow, and they're there, and they're taking care of the grounds, and they're taking care of the space. And so I'm not suggesting that they are the energetic overlay or that only the tourists are, but there's something that overlaid on top that lost the essence of Virgin Mary. This is my sense. This is my sense, the experience I had. And then afterwards, you can go down just, a level down, you wind down the road, and then there is just below the temple, water from the mountain is streaming through, and you can drink from the sacred water. And I said, here she is. I'm getting shivers right now as I speak. Here she is. Yeah. Here she is. And I'm not saying that Virgin Mary can only be found in nature. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just relaying my specific experience and my perception of the space. And so we made a prayer, and we drank the water. And later, as I tuned into the energetics on a deeper level, she was in fact guiding me down deep into the earth, led me to a crystal, then took my hand and guided me up around the house to the back of it, to the top of the hill, where there is a sacred portal. And I got a lot of rainbow light energy connecting with Mary. Yeah. So she's there. It's just, I was like, I was confused about the house itself. And yeah.
What a gorgeous story. I was right with you.
Yeah.
I was right with you. I was
A lot
there.
of details. Yeah, I could even go into more. Yeah.
What you speak to is the fact that we are energetic beings living in a vibrational universe.
Yes.
And that energy never dies. It takes different form. And you being so tuned in and so intuitive and so connected to energy, you were picking up clearly the fact that it was a mixed energy. The energy wasn't singular, it didn't carry her signature, but because you are connected, she led you, and you got rainbow. So gorgeous. Wow, Aisha, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your eloquence and your vision and mission with us today. I'm just so honored. I just love getting to know you more and more. And I really know that your work is divinely inspired. Divinely inspired. And
Thank you so much, Wendy.
Yes. So I will make sure the show notes have the information about.
Yes. Everyone join the series. It's so inspiring.
And connect with you. I want everybody to connect with you. They need and I bless you with all of the work that you're doing in the home that you're creating, and for you.
Oh, Wendy, your blessings are really, they're just such a gift from God. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bring your blessings on. I love Wendy's blessings.
Well, I am so here for you, and I continue to hold you and hold your work. And thank you for staying up late so late
Absolutely.
and coming to us live from Turkey. And I look forward to more dialogues and to
Yes.
see your beautiful work expressed in the world. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It was such an honor, and you inspire me so much as a great, beautiful mama bear who is saving this planet. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Such an honor.
Oh, ditto. Really, truly. I feel so fed. And I'm sure that those that are with us and those that are watching this live and afterwards, archived, and
Yeah.
because there's video of this so that people can actually see us, and then there's
Beautiful.
the podcast. So
Yeah, awesome.
it's like stumbling over my words so you can see us and hear us, but
I know. Yeah.
right. So
And feel us.
yeah, and feel us. Yes. Thank you everyone for being with us today. I have spent this past moments of joy with Aisha Rose, Melodie Hassan. I will make sure that in the show notes, you are able to sign up for the sacredblueprintseries.com and have a way to connect with her so you can follow her work. And stay tuned for more information about our next podcast and how you can stay connected to me. I wish you a beautiful day. And as always, remember that you are powerful beyond description, loved beyond measure, and a force for good in the world. So go forth and spread your magic. Peace and many blessings.